Hello and welcome back to part 4 of our Google Apps Drive video tutorial series. Again, my name is Alex Carlson. In part 3 of the series here we discussed sharing files and folders, and in part 4 we're going to get right into searching files and folders and changing settings. This will be a little more brief of a part to the series here, as these are a little more simple concepts for you guys to grasp. So let's go ahead and get started with searching files and folders. Just a brief overview here. We're going to discuss searching for specific file types as well as searching for specific file sizes in order to manage that storage quota that we discussed earlier. So let's go ahead and launch my Drive app here. And right away we'll just draw our attention up to the search Drive box here at the top. This is where you're going to be able to type in any keywords that might help you quickly access any documents that you may need, or other file types that you may be interested in finding quickly in your Drive. As we saw earlier, simply clicking this search bar will allow you to specify what type of file you're looking for or access more search tools. We'll go ahead and get into that. This is where you're going to be able to further specify what you're searching for within your Drive. In my case, again, I'm part of a domain, so I'll be able to search for files shared with that domain. That searching file type that we discussed a second ago is going to be found right here in the these are the search options in this drop-down menu. This is where you can select those file types again in order to narrow your search. And for instance, if we were to select text documents and search, any of the text documents in my Drive will immediately be made available, and I can further search from there with keywords, and it will search within just those text documents. Let's go back into our search options here, which can be accessed by that drop-down menu or the more search tools that we saw earlier. You can search by things like time, so the date that the file was last modified, certain item names, keywords again, who the owner of the file would be, who the file has been shared with, and then what type of tabs the file is located in your Drive, either the trash or the starred or anywhere. And you can reset any of those settings here by clicking the Reset Search Options button, and you can activate that search by clicking Search. Next, let's talk about searching based on file size. You may want to do this in order to maintain that quota limitation that Drive imposes. Again, it's tough to hit that ceiling, but if you did, then you might want to do a little Drive maintenance and get rid of some of those larger files that you no longer need that are taking up space in your Drive. In order to do that, you hover your mouse over what's called the quota status, which is this gray little tab right here, and you'll see that hovering over that will bring up the status of your Drive quota. And there's a little blue information icon next to Drive. You'll want to click that, and that's going to bring up your quota page. And it'll be organized by in descending order from the largest file types to the smallest here, as you can see. And so if you wanted to get rid of some of your larger file types, you could simply do that directly from the top of the list and manage your quota in that way. So that about wraps it up for searching Drive. Let's go ahead and cover some Drive settings and what we can, just how customized we can make our Drive, or how we can tailor it to fit our needs a little bit better. Any of your settings are going to be located up underneath the gear icon here in the top right. So let's start with covering just a quick overview of the settings here. We'll go over changing the default language if you need to do that for whatever reason. Density settings, which is essentially just spacing in your drive, how things look to the eye. We'll talk about settings for converting uploads, which we briefly brushed on in a previous part in this series. And then lastly, we'll discuss another really cool feature of Drive called Offline Drive and how to enable that. So let's hop back over to our Drive. And like I said, in order to change that default language or any of the other settings, we'll start by clicking on the gear icon here, clicking on Settings, and that's going to immediately bring you right into the General tab. Again, this is another way you could access the details of your quota from this area. We talked briefly about the Convert Uploads checkbox here. This will enable you to automatically convert any files that you upload to Drive to the Google Docs editor format. And then language here is where we're going to be able to change the default language. Simply click Change Language Settings. And it'll bring you to the language settings for your Google account here. And you could add languages or edit your default language here. The offline Drive. So if you would want to be able to work within Drive, even if you were to lose internet connectivity, you can actually sync all your files, Google Docs, Sheets, Slides, Drawings, files directly to the device that you're working on so that they can be accessed and edited offline. If you do not have the Google Drive Chrome app, at this point it will be installed, as the offline features of Drive require either Chrome or the Chrome operating system, so operating off of a Chrome device. And again, Google does not recommend this on public or shared computers, as it can open up some security risks for your organization or your account. So that's how you'll enable offline mode, and by clicking that you'll see the extension wants to be added to Chrome. You might not be able to see it above the cutoff there. It says Add Google Docs Offline, which is the name of the extension. And I'm just going to not do that for now. The density here describes the size of the icons and the files on your screen, and you guys can toy with that as needed. I have it on the default of comfortable, as that looks pretty good to me. You can automatically put any of your Google Photos into a folder. It can create a Google Photos folder for you by checking this box here. And then privacy and terms will be the last box in the settings, which you can reread at your whenever you need, or for reference on your own time. Let's check out a couple of the other tabs here in the settings. Notifications, so any changes to Drive or uploaded files. If you want to be notified on this device, you can enable that here. And we'll get into a little bit more of this in the next part of the series here about Drive connected apps, but this is where you can see and manage those apps that you've connected to your Drive. A couple more notes on that offline Drive mode we were discussing earlier. As I said, it can only work on a Chrome operating system or within Chrome, and it actually does have a limit of about 4,000 files, or 5 gigabytes, and it will need to be configured per device. So whichever devices you use, if there are multiple devices, each one will need to be reconfigured going into these settings here and having offline enabled, as it's a per device feature. So I think that about wraps it up for part 4. We discussed the basics of searching Drive, as well as accessing your Drive settings and manipulating those a little bit. In part 5, we are going to cover another feature of Drive called Drive on the desktop, as well as talking about using those Drive connected apps that we just saw, and lastly some Google updates, or the updates you'll receive when changes are made in Drive, and that involves the activities tree, which we also covered in an earlier part in this series. So thanks for listening, and we'll see you in part 5.